Okay, we've got Bryan McGee with Altronix. We've got class coming up August 1st from 8 to 5. August 1st is a Thursday. We're going to be there all day. We got 4 trainers. One of the trainers is going to be Bryan, and Bryan's going to talk to us about how his products can help us be more efficient and more profitable because they're more reliable and they serve a variety of needs. Bryan, one of the things that I like to have on my truck is one of the switch mode power supplies, relay, and timer. Those are like the 3 things about Altronix that I generally have because they help me diagnose stuff faster, and for my installs, they're flexible. Right. So thanks, first of all, inviting us out here to your shop and showing us what you've got going on. It looks like you've got a lot of stuff that you work on for fun. Is that the case?
Yeah, electronics has always been a hobby of mine, and with my work, a lot of this that you see right here is obviously it's Altronix equipment. So I do a lot of classes and events and shows, and I show equipment powered up. So once I finish that class or whatever, I bring it back and I have to retest it all, and then make sure everything's properly set up, things like that. So. Yeah, most of this is electronics, and I like to dabble in other things in electronics, but that's what this mostly is.
Let's talk about some of the things we're going to be talking about in class. So you've got the SMP3 here,
right.
But this is your little fancy display that you've got used for just specifically that for instruction purposes, right? So you've got, I forgot what these connectors are called. What are these called?
Power pole.
Power pole? I gotcha. So they prevent you from hooking the wrong polarity together?
Yeah, it's commonly used in ham radio operators, commonly use that for their backup power. It's a universal connection.
Are you an amateur radio operator? Oh, me too.
Yeah.
KG5CEG. All right.
KG5LQ.
All right. Did you get your license here in Texas?
I did.
Oh, cool. Right. What's your call letters again?
AB5LQ.
Oh, so that's an old one.
I've had it a while.
Yeah, that's definitely an old one. All right, so I'm a big proponent, and I really love the SMP3 and the SMP5. They're basic switch mode power supplies, and they get me out of a lot of jams.
Right.
We were talking briefly just a minute ago about if you have like a Wiegand reader or something along those lines that's out maybe 100 feet or 200 feet away from the call box, and you're getting some issues with making the data being corrupted. A lot of those readers will work off of like 5 volts or so. With the SMP3, and I would imagine the 5 is the same way. It's just handles more current.
Mm-hmm.
You can actually crank down the voltage regulator down to approximately what we determined it was.
Yes, it's a little bit above 5.7, I believe.
So if you had a Wiegand reader, most of those have a little variance tolerance between 5 and 10 volts or whatever the case may be. So that's one of the things I've used it for, is to diagnose that type of equipment failure, if you will. But it has a couple other advantages. So what's the voltage range that you can input and relatively output?
Okay, so as far as input voltage, you input AC volts into it, and so you can use up to about 28 volts AC on that, and 16 volts would be kind of the lower end of that.
So if you wanted to do 12 or 6?
If you're doing 12 or 6, you could actually run it on any of the input voltage, but if you wanted to go to 24 volts DC, then you would certainly want to have the 24 or 28 AC input.
Gotcha. So right now we're powering, how are you powering it? Off of your power supply over here?
Yeah, so that transformer.
This one right here?
No, the watt.
Oh, gotcha. So this little transformer. So you can't see it, but I'll get a picture of it. It's just a little wall wart, basically, in essence. And I carry a 24 volt AC, 50 or 40 VA, depending upon. And that gets me those 4 voltages, if you will. 24 volt AC if I just need it for that.
Right.
And then 24, 12, and 5 volts DC, or 6 volts DC, sorry. So all of that has it on here. So why a switch mode power supply? Are they more efficient? Are they cooler? Or what do they do better than just a regular old rectifier, which has a full
So a switch mode power supply is, really there's 2 types. One is a linear power supply. The other is a switch mode power supply. The switch mode power supply is much more efficient in the way that it regulates the voltage. We're a linear power supply, if you want to think of it. It rectifies the voltage and then it uses some regulation, but everything that it can't use in the voltage, it has to discard, if you will, through a resistor or a circuit, and that not only creates heat, but you're wasting power when you do that. Where a switch mode power supply adjusts how quickly it provides voltage and power, and by doing that, by being able to slow down, you're not having to discard power, if you will. That's kind of the way I explain it. But linear power supplies have been around for a long time. Switch mode power supplies, they're not really new anymore. They've been around for a long time in computing. All computers, for the most part, are switch mode power supplies.
So that's heat dissipation. It's a big factor if you're going to put it in an access control panel or close to a gate operator control board.
Sure, heat, but also efficiency.
Gotcha. So we're going to be talking a little bit about that at the training. I carry two other things with me. I carry a timer and a relay, and it looks like you've got a timer with a relay built onto it right here. So what's cool about these small little timers that you have? I think there's a 6062 and a 1
right.
and a 3 and all that.
Yeah, 6062 here and a Tempo 2. Well, the great thing about them is they're really inexpensive and dependable. This 6062, basically you can do all the programming with a dip switch. You just flip the switches to make the timer do what you want to do, and then adjust the little potentiometer and connect that. It's real simple. This one's simple too, but it's got two timer functions, if you will, built into the board. So it's a little bit different application for that one. But this one's very, very common. These you find in boxes, on systems installed all over the place. So like gates, but security systems, access control, and buildings and things like that too.
Yeah, 9 times out of 10, we wouldn't do this, but if you get into jam and you have a timer go bad on a gate operator, you could throw this in there. But what I use these for is mag locks. Surprisingly enough, when there's an issue where the mag lock won't release and I can't use a varistor or something along those lines,
right.
Or to dissipate that. Sometimes these are great because it'll make sure that circuit is open for long enough time to dissipate that energy and the mag lock. So they're great for mag locks and just all general access control where you need a timer. And it has a trigger input, and that's what starts the timer, correct?
Correct.
And is that just a voltage, or is that relay input, or both?
Typically, you're throwing a closure, so you're syncing. You're bringing a voltage low, so it's a contact closure.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
I haven't used this tempo timer. One that I seem to always get hooked into is the 365-day timer. So if you will talk about that a little bit on the first, that would be great. And then relay. I don't see any of the relay boards out here, but do you have? Can you explain to us the RG6 and all? If you want to get it, that's fine.
Yeah, I think I have one over here, maybe.
Oh yeah, so this is one of my.
This one's kind of really unique. The RBR. Every time you bump it, it changes states and it sits there until you bump it again. So between that and the timers, people get really unique, come up with really strange applications that when you're trying to figure out how you want to build something that operates electrically and something maybe you can't buy off the shelf, then they'll use multiple components like that, like this and bring it all together.
This was instrumental in solving one of my huge problems, which is being able to toggle. In automatic gates, we have a device in Dallas, Mesquite, and a couple other local cities that has a ratchet relay.
Right.
And the ratchet relay, although you can get them in lower voltage power, they're huge and they require a mechanical movement, so they make that noise and then sound and all that stuff. And in essence, this would do the same thing. So I had an overhead door ingress receiver that I ran off all low voltage, so I didn't have enough power to actually trigger that solenoid to fire the ratchet relay. So this jumped in because I needed something that would stick. All these, a lot of them that will fire, and stay in that state until you release power, but I
Right.
need to fire it and then take away power and then fire it and take away power. So that's cool. So you'll explain to us a little bit more about the relays on the first. And this is the common, well,
this is
one that I carry.
RBSN. It's a simple, the RB5, RBSN. We have a whole slew of relays, just depending on the application, but this one's a low current relay. This one's really old.
So if you
grabbed one off the shelf that I've had around for a long time.
So if you need to change the state of, for instance, a circuit or something like that, without buying a big ice cube relay, and then finding a place for that and the socket, this would do it. And am I correct in almost all of this stuff, you have some kind of fixture that'll fit on DIN rail that will house these, and then you also supply the stickies as well too. All right, cool. So that's basic the stuff that we're going to cover. Yeah, and you get to meet the instructor. Bryan, you've been a business friend of mine and a personal friend of mine for a long time, and I always appreciated your business advice.
Feeling likewise, sir.
Well, thank you. I'm sure I have more questions than actual answers. So, all right, you're going to see Bryan August 1st. He's going to be in the middle of the day. And he's going to be talking about the Altronix products. So thanks for inviting us out here, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.